The war between humanity and the Zealth Dominion had lasted for 30 bloody years. Humanity had grown used to being the underdogs, scraping victories through stubborn grit, clever tactics, and technology hacked together by desperate engineers. The Zealth, tall, scaled, and terrifyingly efficient, ruled most of the spiral arm. To them, humans were stubborn pests, a species too weak to be enslaved yet too loud to ignore. Now, peace negotiations were finally on the table. At least, that was the word on the fleet's comms. Captain Adrian Vey of the Terran Defense Navy was the man sent to deliver humanity's terms. He was young for the role, barely 35, but survivors had become rarities, and Adrian had proven himself too many times to ignore. He had fought in the siege of Orleans, where his frigate rammed a Zealth battleship and somehow survived. He had a reputation for recklessness, and that, apparently, made him the perfect envoy for a queen who respected boldness above all. The Zealth flagship loomed before him, dwarfing his shuttle as it was guided into the docking bay. Its spires of black alloy curved like a predator's claws, and even as the shuttle settled, Adrian could feel the weight of hostile stares through the viewing ports. He was escorted by 6 towering Zealth guards down endless corridors of living metal, until at last the chamber doors opened. There she was. Queen Zithera of the Zealth Dominion sat upon a throne of coiled obsidian. She was immense, nearly 3 meters tall, her scales glimmering like liquid silver under the chamber's pale light. Her crown was fused bone and crystal, grown from her own body in elaborate spikes. Her eyes, slitted, violet, predatory, regarded Adrian with mild amusement, as though he were an insect that had wandered into her nest. The court was silent. Adrian bowed stiffly, then straightened. "Your Majesty, I've come to negotiate terms." A ripple of laughter coursed through the chamber. The courtiers, scaled nobles in flowing battle silks, mocked him with clicks of their tongues. "You humans," the queen purred, her voice resonant, almost musical. "Always so eager to pretend at strength. Tell me, little captain, what terms do you think you can demand of me?" Adrian felt the weight of her gaze. Every instinct screamed at him to tread carefully. But he remembered the message Earth Command had drilled into him. "We will not bow. We will not beg. Be bold or we have already lost." So Adrian smirked. "What was that, an offer?" he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "Because if you're offering yourself as part of the peace deal, Your Majesty, I'll gladly accept." The court gasped. Dozens of Zealth nobles hissed, their tails lashing the floor. A human had just insulted their monarch. No worse, flirted with her. Guards moved their hands to their plasma spears. But Queen Zithera laughed. It was a deep, thunderous laugh that silenced the chamber. She rose from her throne, her long talons clicking against the floor as she stepped down toward him. The courtiers trembled at her mirth, unsure if it meant death or favor. She loomed over Adrian, her violet eyes glowing. "You are either the boldest human I have ever met, or the most foolish. Perhaps both." "Both usually keeps me alive," Adrian replied, though his throat was dry. The queen tilted her head, examining him as though he were some curious beast. Then, with a flash of teeth, she said, "All right, human. I accept." The beginning of a dangerous game. The words stunned the court into silence. Adrian wasn't sure if she was mocking him or deadly serious, but when she gestured, the guards withdrew. He was escorted not to a cell, but to guest chambers within the heart of the flagship. Luxurious by any standard, they were nonetheless a gilded cage. Days passed. Negotiations were unlike anything Adrian had expected. Instead of formal councils, The queen summoned him personally. They dined together, she feasting on roasted meats the size of his torso, while he picked at smaller portions of replicated rations provided by her kitchens. She questioned him relentlessly, her tone teasing but her gaze sharp. "Why do your people fight so desperately when you are so few?" "Because survival isn't about numbers," Adrian answered. "It's about resolve. Do you truly think your kind can endure against empires older than your sons? We already have. Otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here." Her laughter became more frequent. What began as a cruel amusement slowly shifted into fascination. One evening, after a particularly sharp exchange, she leaned close across the massive table. "You play a dangerous game, human," she whispered. "You make light of death, you challenge my words, and you tempt me." Adrian swallowed. "Is that bad?" Her smile was both terrifying and mesmerizing. "It may be fatal." Court intrigue. Not everyone was amused by this strange offer the queen had accepted. Zealous nobles whispered in the shadows. To them, humans were prey, not partners. They saw Adrian as an insult, and some began plotting to remove him quietly. Adrian, of course, noticed the assassination attempts. Poison chalice. A collapsing floor panel in the dueling arena. A zealous noble accidentally drawing his blade too close during a ceremony. He dodged, deflected, and survived each attempt, sometimes by luck, sometimes by sheer instinct. When he mentioned it to the queen, she chuckled darkly. "They test you. They think you are unworthy." "And you?" Adrian asked. Her eyes narrowed, glowing in the dim chamber. "I think you are still alive. That counts for something." Over time, their conversations deepened. She spoke of her burdens, how ruling a dominion of hundreds of worlds meant constant rebellion, endless war. How strength was the only language her people respected. How loneliness was the price of power. Adrian listened, and for once, did not answer with wit. One night, when silence lingered, he said simply, "Maybe strength is also knowing when not to crush everything beneath you." She studied him for a long time, her great tail coiling around the throne. And then, softly, "You would not survive a day as my consort. Then maybe you should try me," he said before he could stop himself. Her laughter shook the hall again. The middle, a test of worth. Eventually, the queen announced a trial. "If humanity wishes peace," she declared before her court, "then their champion must prove himself, not with words but in the right of dominion. He will enter the arena, as all zealous heirs once did, and survive against our chosen." The courtiers roared with approval. To them, this was the queen's way of finally disposing of the insolent human. The arena was vast, its floor of shifting metal designed to confound. Adrian stepped inside armed only with a blade and a shield. Across from him towered his opponent, a beast bred in the Dominion's war pits, six-limbed, armored, and hungry. The battle was brutal. The creature's claws shredded his shield within minutes, and his blade barely scratched its hide. Adrian relied on agility, rolling beneath its strikes, using the environment, collapsing platforms, magnetic fields, to wound it bit by bit. When at last he drove his shattered blade through the beast's eye, collapsing beside its twitching body, the arena erupted in stunned silence. He had won. Bleeding, bruised, and barely standing, Adrian looked up to the queen's balcony. She was smiling, not mockingly, but with something fiercer. Pride. "Rise, human," she declared. "By Zelith law, you have proven yourself.